A new Fox News digital exclusive report revealing that several Democrat-run states across the country have been using billions of dollars from President Biden's COVID-19 relief package to fund the implementation of critical race theory in public schools. Our own Madison Allworth is here in New York with more. Madison?
In billions of COVID-19 relief funds set aside to help schools and children get back on track was spent instead on anti-racism and implicit bias training. This all coming to light because of research from One Nation verified by Fox News Digital. The American Relief Act provided over $122 billion to support schools and students, but some of the spending has raised eyebrows. In California, $1.5 billion went toward implicit bias training for school staff. New York used some of its $9 billion to implement diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And some of Illinois' funds went towards training on topics like anti-racism and equity. The Department of Education had to sign off on some of those plans, saying in a statement to Fox, in part, quote, "The department is not encouraging the use of American Rescue Plan funds to teach CRT, and any claim to the contrary is patently false." All of this as the White House continues to push for an additional $22.5 billion in COVID-19 funding. But considering this report, it's no wonder why questions are being asked. Dagan?
Madison, thank you so much for that reporting. Madison Allworth. Joining me now, Nicole Neily, president of Parents Defending Education and Speech First. Nicole, your reaction to this?
It is disappointing, but it is not surprising whatsoever that this program has been hijacked by radical ideologues. I mean, for up and down states, this is the agenda that they want to push. And it's when this passed in February 2021, we were told it was a matter of life and death. And parents like me assumed that that meant that it would be used for air purifiers, for masks, to open our schools so that our children could learn. But look at the department's words at the time. They talked about using it to address social, emotional, and mental health, to address inequities. And we know what that means. We mean, social emotional learning is a Trojan horse for critical race theory. And inequities means that the government's going to put its thumb on the scale so there are equal outcomes. They're going to hold some people back to uplift others, and that's inappropriate.
I want social, emotional, and mental health. Well, if you cared about the emotional and mental health of students, you wouldn't have locked them out of school in the first place.
Absolutely. Children are suffering, and instead of using the money to address this astonishing learning loss that our children have faced over the past 2 years to make up some of those classroom, problems, what they're doing in the 7 hours a day that they have our children is they're pushing social justice ideas. I mean, this is a betrayal, and these children are, in some cases, never going to make up the loss that has happened over the past 2 years. This is bad for America, and it's a little wonder that, after spending $122 billion on pet projects, the parents have lost trust in the system.
And from the Biden administration on down, their response has been to tell parents that they're lying, that it's not happening, or to sic the Department of Justice on parents.
Absolutely. We're domestic terrorists for asking questions, for demanding accountability, for wanting to know how the money's being spent and what our children are learning. We're the enemy. We have to file public records requests to learn these things. And so it's little wonder, that people are pulling their kids out of school in droves, sending them to private schools, homeschooling, because we have seen over the past 2 years how broken this system is, and that these bureaucrats who, are in charge and we're supposed to trust, prioritize their money and their power over our children's welfare.
And they think they know better than the actual parents when it comes to teaching children anything outside of what they should be teaching them. And I'm talking about reading and writing and mathematics and science. So I want you to listen to what I'll call President Biden's Terry McAuliffe moment. Listen to this.
They're all our children. And the reason you're the teachers of the year is because you recognize that. They're not somebody else's children. They're like yours when they're in the classroom.
No, they're not, Nicole.
Nope, they are not. And again, we can't even call this a gaffe anymore because there are so many members of the Democratic Party that repeat this line. It was Terry McAuliffe. It was the Michigan Democratic Party. There are children. We get to decide. We're the experts. How dare you? How dare you tell me that you have my children's best interests at heart? Again, we have to figure out what our children are learning by filing public records requests. I'm not even allowed to enter my child's elementary school still because of COVID 2 years later. People know. They see what is happening. We have a tip line. We receive hundreds of tips a week from across the country, screenshots, PDFs of objectionable material. People are concerned, and rightly so, about what their children are learning or are not learning. And it's betrayed. We feel betrayed by the system.
I think that the left is giving itself away through the rhetoric, because the more outrageous the rhetoric, the more desperate they clearly are. And I look no further than, I'll call her the woman who's done more to hurt children in this country than anyone else, and that's Randi Weingarten. Here is the American Federation of Teachers president arguing that conservatives are riling up parents to hate teachers and destroy public education. Nicole, listen to this.
Instead of everybody joining together in America to get us out of the effects of the pandemic, these right-wing ideologues are just trying to create fear and anxiety and anger, exploiting the fear that parents already have in order to win elections and end public education as we know it.
She also accused you and parents of banning books, going after the teaching of racism, sexism, and the Holocaust, and trying to silence and put back in the closet people who are gay or transgender. I am reading from a quote.
I mean, it's ironic that she says we don't want to teach the Holocaust when we see states like Minnesota, their ethnic studies, the first version that they were floating, actually didn't mention the Holocaust at all in their World War II lesson. The NEA has reviewed, every year it comes up as a resolution that they want to pass a boycott, divest, sanctions support. I mean, so for her to say that that's what we are going for is rich, and it's frankly, it's gaslighting. This is what they do. We want to know what our children are being taught, and we want input into that because we know our children better than anybody else. And what the past 2 years have shown us is that the teachers' unions do not have our children's best interests at heart. They did not want to keep the school open, but they still wanted to make a lot of money off of off of the backs of our system. And so, no, we're betrayed by Randi. And so for her to say that, this is going to lead to war, I mean, how dare she? How dare she? She has lost the trust of the American people. And the fact that she is still employed by the NEA as the head of it is appalling.
Power-hungry science deniers who don't like children too much is how I've referred to these teachers' unions. Nicole Neily, thank you so much. Terrific conversation. I hope to get to talk to you again very soon.
Thank you.